Hi, neighbor. Education is a basic need for everyone. Find out how the Cross North School is helping kids in our community no matter the challenges they face. And later, if you need something to do this weekend, we will have 2 upcoming events that will get you racing worms and bobbing for apples. All that and more on today's show.
We're singing, hi neighbor, what do you know and what do you say? Hi neighbor, throw all your worries away.
Holly Barrett serves as the Director of Communications of the Cross North School, a residential group home for foster children. The mission of the Cross North School is to provide a Christian sanctuary of hope and healing where children can rise above their circumstances and excel both in school and in life. Hi, Miss Holly Barrett. How are you doing?
I'm great, Olivia. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for being
Absolutely.
here. We're excited to have you.
Well, we're glad to be here.
Well, for those of us that don't know what the Cross North School is, could you tell us a little bit more?
Sure. The Cross North School is an over 100-year-old organization that serves children in foster care. So about 95% of our children come to us through the Department of Social Services and are in foster care. We have 14 cottages, 13 on campus and 1 down in Spruce Pine, that houses a program for college-age students. And then our campus cottages have children in them from birth up through high school. And they're family-like cottage settings, and our children go to school on our campus, and we meet all of their other needs as well for the time that they have to be in foster care.
Wonderful. So you said it's a group or a home for all ages. There are no
Yes.
ages that are excluded?
That's correct.
And how do they come to you?
So they come through referrals from the Department of Social Services. If they've been removed from their home for whatever reason, then the first thing that the social worker does is to look for a place for them to live. And that could be a traditional, single family foster home, or it could be a group home like Cross North. One of the big things that we do is to work with sibling groups. Because of the size of our cottages, we're able to keep sibling groups together, or at least on the same campus. So we have, I think, close to 20 sibling groups on our campus right now. And that could be anywhere from 2 siblings up to, I think our largest group is about 5 siblings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, do you have to live on campus if you go to the Cross North School?
So yes, so the name of our organization is the Cross North School, but we actually have a charter school on our campus that's called Marjorie Williams Academy. And so that's where the children receive their education. But because the kids are in foster care, then yes, they live on campus in our cottages with cottage parents that live with them.
Well, what makes the Cross North School so special?
Well, it is an amazing place. If you've never visited, you should come visit. People say all the time when they drive onto campus that the air is different, and it really, really is. I think there are a couple of things that make it different, or maybe different than people are expecting. A lot of times when people come and they see the children outside playing, they say, the kids all look so happy. And we're like, well, yeah, they're kids, they're having a good time. One of the things that we work really, really hard to do is to provide hope and healing for our children, to help them find their ways back to that hope and healing that all kids should have, and to learn to be a kid again. And so we have an organizational model called Sanctuary that all of our children and all of our staff are trained in. And it's a model designed specifically for victims of trauma. And so it really creates a trauma-informed community. And what that does then is, for everyone that is trained in Sanctuary, when we have an interaction with a child, that lets that interaction become a healing interaction for the children. And so they learn what it's like to live in a healthy family, what it's like to live in a calm place, what it's like to be a kid again, to ride a bike and to run and play, and to do homework, to have support, to have people around them that are there to support them and to help them meet the goals that they have for school, or whatever kind of goals they have.
So it sounds just like a really big family.
It is. It absolutely is.
And how do you guys get funded? Is it from the state? Do you have just donors? How does that work?
So we have about 50-50 state funding. Children in foster care, their counties pay a board rate for their care. And then about 50% of our funding comes from donors. So individuals, corporations, grants. We have a very large, very active donor base, and we couldn't do what we do without them.
And that means that all the students that are there don't have to worry about anything, is that
That's
right?
correct.
Everything is taken care of for them.
That is correct,
That's awesome.
absolutely.
And I know, because I'm from the area,
Yeah.
that there's the coffee shop and the frescoes that are on the buildings. Could you talk a little bit more about,
Sure.
are those things that were given to you or donated, or how does the coffee shop work, and what are the frescoes, what do they bring?
Sure. So we have 4 retail entities on our campus. We have the coffee shop, Miracle Grounds Coffee Shop. We have Blair Fraley Sales Store. We have Crossnor Weavers and Crossnor Fine Arts Gallery. And those 4 businesses are actually, working profitable businesses. And then the net proceeds from their businesses go back into the mission of the Crossnor School. So you can come there and have a cup of coffee. You can go into the sales store, which is the largest thrift store in the high country, and you can buy anything from a piece of jewelry to a piece of clothing to a piece of furniture. Just depends on what's been donated, In the weaving room, we have about 30 working looms, and we have women and students that work there making wearables, home decor, table goods, those kinds of things that are absolutely gorgeous. And then the Fine Arts Gallery, where we represent local and regional artists, and the sale of their work then help to support the mission. And then you mentioned the fresco. We have Sloop Chapel, which is a historic site. It's on the National Registry of Historic Places. And in there is a Ben Long fresco. It's a very beautiful painting of Jesus as the children are brought to Jesus. And so it's part of the Fresco Trail in North Carolina, and we get lots and lots of visitors on campus coming to see the beautiful artwork.
Well, we have just a second left. So what would you like to say to those of us that want to know how to help? How can we help?
Well, you can always help by praying. You can always help by sharing our story with other folks. You can volunteer. You can call our main switchboard number, and the receptionist will connect you with the volunteer coordinator. And it's certainly donations as well. We take goods, we take money, of course, but all of those ways are great ways to help out our mission.
Well, thank you, Ms. Holly. We're so happy that we got to talk to you and speak about the wonderful school and everything that it does. So up next, we are going to have our own financial guru, Jonathan Allen, tell us why you need a will.
My guest on Financial Matters is Andrea Capua, a Boone attorney at law. Today our subject, why you need a will. Andrea, let's start with what is estate planning and why it's important.
The best way to describe estate planning would be taking control of what happens to your assets upon your death. And there's a process to it, and there's a certain understanding that you have to have. But it's a good mechanism for just making sure that, like I said, upon your death, you know and you can direct how your assets are going to be distributed.
Does that process have a name? Is there a name for that process? What's that called?
It doesn't necessarily have a name, but there are certain documents that you would want in place.
Okay.
Now, upon your death, that might be what you're referring to.
Yeah, I think so.
So upon your death, there is something called a probating process that a lot of people have heard about, but really don't understand until they've gone through it.
Sure.
And the best way to describe that would be an administrative process that takes place in the court system to essentially account for assets and debt and make sure that before they're distributed, everything is in order.
Gotcha. So it's a court system process, basically, of administering a estate, is kind of what probate is. Is that right? Is that correct?
So yes, and talking about probate, there's certain components of it.
Okay.
First of all, probating is filing a will at the courthouse and having it accepted as a valid will. That's the first thing.
And who accepts that? Who accepts the will?
Typically the clerk of court in North Carolina. In other states it's judges. But here in North Carolina it would be the clerk of court. They receive the will and they make a decision on whether or not it's a valid will. Once it is approved, it gets filed on record, and that begins the process. And then the next thing is you have to do an accounting of what debt and assets the decedent, or we call it, use the word decedent, but it's actually the deceased person, whether it's a him or her. But you have to do an accounting, and you have to publish notice to creditors in the newspaper, so you're essentially letting people know that the death has occurred, and if anybody has a claim against that person. It gives them an opportunity to respond, and it gives you a deadline so you can have closure on that issue.
Who is the person that's responsible for actually filing that claim?
In North Carolina, if you have a will, it would be an executor. Other states, they are known as personal representatives.
Okay.
If you don't have a will, it's the same role, but it's kind of called an administrator.
Yeah, so if somebody dies without a will, there is somebody who actually will be appointed by the court system then to administer that person's estate. Is that correct?
If somebody comes forward,
Okay.
if somebody dies without a will, just to clarify, you still have this process that you have to go through in order to transfer assets from one person to another. But yes, it's the same process, but it's got a different name to it.
And so financially speaking, why is it important for somebody to have a will? Do they avoid that? Is there some sort of special rights that they have or anything? Or what's the reason why is it important financially for somebody to have a will?
The biggest mistake that people make, first of all, before I answer your question, is that they think if you don't have a will, the state is going to get your assets, and that is not the case. The state only gets your assets if you have no relatives or heirs whatsoever to come forward. So now to answer your question, if you have a will, you direct where you want your assets to go. If you don't have a will, North Carolina wants them to your assets at least to go to blood relatives or spouses. So there's a whole schedule of who would get assets, but essentially if you're married, they would go to your spouse. If you're married and have children, it would go to your spouse and your children. If you have parents, I mean, there's all these different scenarios in which the state of North Carolina would say where it would go. So if you don't have a will, there's a backup, and then, like I said earlier, if you don't have, if you don't have any heirs or spouses, parents, descendants, grandchildren, any of that, then that would be a remote situation in which it would go to the state.
And so from the standpoint of planning, it's obviously better to have a will than just to rely on the state to administer your assets. What are some of the key things that people need to look for, maybe provisions in a will or things like that? Is there anything specific that they should really know about a will that might be really helpful as it comes to planning out someone's estate?
Typically, you would choose your executor, who you want to take over upon your death and account for all of your assets. Make sure that they get distributed to the right place. I would say the most important thing as far as having a will is if you have children, it's really a key thing where you can actually control when your children get your assets. If it's a spouse, most of the time you're going to leave everything to your spouse, and then if your spouse has predeceased you, or if you die in a common accident, then you would look towards children. If your children are young, and I know you have young children, it's most important because, just to give you an example, if you have a life insurance policy or you have anything with a beneficiary designation, a retirement account, or anything where your kids are named as beneficiaries, this is a common mistake, by the way, that people don't realize. If their children are underage, they end up inheriting these assets, and you think, do you want your kids to have assets under their control where they can do anything they want with it, and they're only 18 years old when they ultimately get those assets?
Right, okay. What other documents are important as it relates to estate planning and also as it relates to a will? Is there anything else you recommend people at least consider?
Typically, I would recommend the following documents. A will, a power of attorney, a healthcare power of attorney, and if you want, this is not something I necessarily recommend or don't recommend, it's just a personal decision, a living will. So when people come to my office, I try to send them out the door with what I call a will package. And that would include those documents. And the importance of it is you, again, making decisions now while you're alive, what you want to happen in the case of a will upon your death. But with powers of attorney, it's making decisions on what would happen if you became incompetent and unable to make your own decisions.
That's great. That's really great. You know, that's some really good information. Thank you so much for helping us with us. Well, that's Financial Matters. I'm Jonathan Allen, and I'll see you next time.
Looking for some fall fun this weekend? With me, I have two guests that are here to talk about the Valley Country Fair and the Woolly Worm Festival, both happening this weekend. Mike Hallis and Roy Craigie. Mike, can you tell us a little bit more about the Valley Country Fair?
I'd be delighted to. The Valley Country Fair has been going on for 38 years now. It's sponsored by the Church of the Holy Cross and the Valley Cruises Conference Center, which are both Episcopal organizations. The first year, some of the money went to church, but since then, all of the funds, all of the profit has gone to nonprofit organizations and to individuals and families in need. We have such a wide variety of items. We have the church and the conference center up in the hill, and then we've got this beautiful valley. And in the valley, we will have about 168 juried vendors with various tents there. The quality of the merchandise of these juried vendors is, I think, the highest quality that you'll find in the high country. It is magnificent. All kinds of items there.
What kind of items would you find? What are your favorites when you go?
Well, there's so many items. It's hard to list them all, but they've got pottery, they've got woodworking, they've got photography, they've got sculpture, both wooden sculpture, metal sculpture, also included in that. In past years, we've had people who even made canoes and had them there. And he may have some paddles there this year.
Awesome.
It is just an amazing event of items and all kinds of handmade things, weaving, craft, those types of things.
So besides it being a crafts fair, is there food
Oh,
also?
is there food? Let me tell you about the food. We have food made on the spot, which is Brunswick stew
Oh, great.
and apple butter. And I'm one of the fellows who make apple butter. We'll be making it for 3 days. We'll also have the typical hamburgers, hot dogs, sausages, things like that. And for those people who are vegetarians, we have vegetarian foods too. We have black bean and rice just to eat. We also have portobello hoagies that we have. We have just quite a few items.
Yum.
Sweet
Yum,
potatoes,
yum.
yes.
I know, that
delicious.
sounds making me hungry right now. Well, is the fair, does it have games? Is it for all ages? Or what can we do when we come there besides shop?
It is absolutely for all ages. That's a good question. We have a special children's corner, and that's being sponsored by the Valley Cruises Community Park in the 8th grade of the Valley Cruises School. And they're going to have all kinds of games for kids. They've got pumpkin bowling, and they've got various toss games, and you can have your face made up. So there's quite a few activities for children. We also have 2 stages there. The upper stage, which is right next to the food tent, so people can get food, sit down, and listen, will be music from 9 o'clock till 4 o'clock. The entire presentation. We have all kinds of folk music. We have gospel music. We have mountain music. It's just a good collection of mountain-type themes and music for it.
Fun.
On the lower stage, it's great for the kids. There's people there, there'll be clowns, musicians, clogging, those types of activities for the kids. So we've got this big kids corner down there that's great for the children.
Wonderful. Well, you made me hungry thinking about the food. So I know now, because I haven't been to the country fair, that you have good food. Well, the Woolly Worm Festival, I know, has great food too.
Yes, ma'am.
Roy Craigie, can you attest to that?
I
That
sure
the food is
can.
awesome.
The only thing is, we're up there announcing the races and don't get a chance to eat.
No.
But I see some of the food going by us constantly. It's a lot of the great foods, just like they have at the Valley Country Fair. But every kind of chicken, pork, steak, sandwiches, whatever you can think of, they have there. The corn dogs, the funnel cakes, all of those kind of exciting things that a lot of that type of food I don't eat regular, but when I go to a fair,
You treat yourself.
you treat yourself. It's just part of being there, like a corn dog or something. But we've got Asian, we've got Japanese, we've got Chinese,
gosh.
we've got the world's greatest donuts you've ever seen. They're about yay big. It's an Amish group that comes and makes these things. Now, they're true to their faith, so they're not there on Sunday. But on Saturday, the line will be here down halfway
better get 'em
across the
while you
campus
can.
here, trying to buy those donuts.
Well, I know that I've been to the Woolly Worm, but for those who haven't, can you tell us a little bit more about what it is?
Well, it's a great festival, and the main part of it, besides all of the 150 plus craft booths, 30 some food booths, all day music, much of the same great stuff, but different acts that Valley Cruces has, is we race woolly worms.
And I just want everybody to know that you just pulled a woolly worm out of your necklace. That's what just happened. It's a live woolly worm that you had in your necklace.
Well, if you girls want to know how to be well dressed, I mean, you would have a necklace like this. But we race these worms. We race 25 of them at a time, and they go up either 36 inches or 42 inches, depending on the weather. The neat thing about it is some of them won't move at all because they have that defense mechanism where they ball up and don't go anywhere.
They get scared.
And yes, and others will just fly up there. So if you enter the first race, you win $25 and a beautiful ribbon. Then you come back for a semifinal, and if you win that, you win $100. And then, of course, your real goal is to come back for the final race, where all our final contestants are up there, and that's for $1,000. So you ASU people out there, I know if you're in the TV business here, you make more money than that each day here running these cameras and everything. But it's a great way to make some money, have a lot of fun. But your worm has to pass a test.
Oh, no.
And that is, the veterinarian checks it, does a little urinalysis on it to be sure it's steroid stimulant free.
Right.
No singeing of the hair like I happen to have on top.
We can't have any cheating worms.
No, absolutely no cheating. If it passes all of that, then we judge the weather. The neat thing about a woolly worm, you know, there's 52 weeks in a year, there's 4 seasons, fall, winter, summer, spring, and each season has 13 weeks. And that's a fact. And so a woolly worm is the only animal or insect that we know of that has 13 individual body segments. You can see that best on like my hat here, 13 of these. So we judge the weather of that, from the winning worm based on each week's color. If it's a black segment, that means we're going to have natural snow. Now, we say natural snow up here because we make a lot of snow at their ski resorts.
Yeah.
If it's a dark, rich chocolate brown, kind of like this guy has here, that's that miserable cold weather.
Oh, no.
20 degrees and down below, and then you guys that do weather come on and say, and with the wind chill factor, it's 13 below.
Yep.
And we immediately are much colder than when it was just 0. And the normal brown, and it's almost orangish brown, that's that normal winter weather where about 5:30, you better get your jacket, maybe some earmuffs, something. And in the morning, if you got a car outside, you're going to have to scrape your windshield. About 10 o'clock, it gets comfortable again. Take that heavy jacket off, and it goes cycling like that. We're some 87, 88% accurate in 38 years of predicting the weather. We challenge the weather stations you use or the government's weather stations to beat
Just with
the
those
mighty
little guys.
woolly worm.
Well, after the break, when we come back, I know that we're going to be doing some racing. So stay with us, and we'll do a little bit of that afterwards.
Sounds great.
Hey Gabby, how you doing? How's the play date and sleepover?
Dad, it was great.
Awesome. Okay, I'm on my way. Hey guys, what are you doing?
We're going swimming. We're going biking. Yeah!
I'll see you in a little bit, guys. I love you.
Hi, babe. How was school today?
Hi, Dad. It was great.
Okay, honey. I'll be home soon. Remember, you're never too far away from your kids to be a dad. Reach out and take a second to check in, because sometimes the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Kids will spend 15 minutes watching online videos like this one.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes twice a day. They have the time.
Okay, everybody, we're back, and we're about to start our very serious woolly worm races. Gentlemen, do you have names for your worms?
Mine's Apple Butter. He's moving out.
Woolly Booger.
All right, mine's name is Pickle. So, if Mr. Hallis, I think that you're cheating.
Apple
By the
Butter is
looks of
moving
it.
out. The
All right.
Valley Country Fair is moving out.
Test him?
We bet no, but I might when it's over here.
All right, guys.
We'll just let them go.
Okay, then I guess it's between you and I.
All right.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
All right.
Go
They're
apple
off.
butter.
They're not moved. Let's
Go
we'll
apple
give them a
butter.
little boost, get them started here.
Yeah.
Oh my
All
gosh,
right.
mine's the losing worm.
Well, there they go. Now
No,
the
Mike-
two of them are moving
Apple
on.
mine back down. There we go.
Of course, yours is still.
All right, apple
All
butter's
right,
back
Woolly
into
Booger's
it.
coming out in the lead. Woolly Booger, here comes Apple Butter catching up.
Apple butter's coming up hard.
What's going on with mine? Did you give me a faulty worm?
Ma'am, ours are highly
Oh,
trained.
there we go. All right.
It's Woolly Booger.
Woolly Booger did it.
Here
And
comes Apple
second
Butter.
is apple butter, close right behind it.
All right, well, looks like we have our winners.
The ASU worm is just a little bit slower, but maybe,
Oh, you guys.
maybe he'll take some lessons from the football team.
He's starting to move now a little bit.
All right, gentlemen, if you would like to tell us about one last time where your events are taking place and when, so we can let everybody know.
The Valley Country Fair is October 15th in Valley Cruises, North Carolina.
Okay.
Just a mile south of the intersection of Broadstone Road, Highway 194. And we go from 9 to 4. And I encourage people to get there early. And the final point, please do not bring pets. We have a lot of people there. We might have 12,000 people there. So please do not bring pets. Thank you.
Understood. And for the woolly worm?
The Woolly Worm Festival is October 15th and 16th, Saturday and Sunday. We open both days at 9 o'clock. We start our races right then and have all the other great activities. A unique thing is that Valley Cruces and Banner Elk are just 5-7 miles apart, so you can travel to both of them. Stay at one as long as you want to. Come on down to the other one. Have a great time.
And there's not competition. We support each other. It's just really a great event. It's a wonderful time to come to the high country. The color should be close to peak. It'll be beautiful.
Awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I'm so happy that we got to talk about these wonderful events, and we can't wait for both of them.
Great.
I hope everyone's enjoyed the show, and right now I'm hanging out with Woolly the Woolly Worm. How are you doing, Woolly? Well, are you excited about the upcoming events this weekend? Me too. I hope we can go together. Do you think you'll be doing any racing, maybe? Show me a little bit of a race. Yes. Well, I have one final question for you, Woolly. What do you call it when worms take over the world? Global warming. All right, everybody, that's our show. Thanks for watching. Bye, neighbor.
We're singing, hi neighbor, what do you know and what do you say? Hi neighbor, throw all your worries away.